also for taking time to be here with us. We have prepared this engaging section on registration of food products to bring you more insight when it comes to Ghana, Nigeria. Famous Advisory, first of all, is a business consulting firm established in Ghana and having a branch office in Nigeria. So for today's webinar, the two countries are collaborating to bring you an insightful detail on how to register food products, whether you are a manufacturer, an importer, or even an exporter seeking to enter into any of these markets. We are here today to engage you and also to throw more light, address all your questions, your concerns, and everything that you need to know when it comes to food registration in Ghana, that is through NAFDAC, so through FDA, and then also in Nigeria through NAFDAC. We have our two speakers today in the person of Edmond Jaban, who is a compliance executive at Famous Advisory Ghana. And then we have Joy Nebrago, who is also a legal compliance executive in Nigeria. She is a lawyer as well. They are here to help us address all the concerns when it comes to NAFDAC and FDA registrations. So stay tuned and don't tamper with your dial. We are here to address all your concerns. All right. Also, we want you to feel free and share your questions or your comments using the chat box. When we are done with the presentation, we will address each and every one of them. Okay. You can give us a shout out from where you are watching us from. Let's acknowledge you. And we would also be grateful to see the people watching us and those who are here with us. Thank you very much. We will start by getting an intro from Edmond Jaban in Ghana. He's going to brief us about FDA registrations briefly before we get into the question and answer section. Thank you very much. Edmond, your people are ready for you.
Thank you very much, Jane. I hope you can all hear me. Yes. So speaking about Ghana and then the regulatory compliance space when it comes to food products registration in Ghana. And thank you all too for joining the webinar. So as you all know, Ghana is a country in West Africa with a population of over 35 million individuals, mostly young individuals, that has a very vibrant economy. So there's a population of Ghana that is middle class, very high middle class, that is ready to buy food products in Ghana. So this makes Ghana a very good business center for anybody who is going to import or produce food in a country. Also, as you all know, as time goes on, people want easy ways of doing things, easy ways of consuming food products, because you have a very vibrant economy in Ghana and people that are always busy working around. Quality food products is something that we want to look at producing to them, and then it gives you a very good business space for you to grow your business. When it comes to the country also, there's a lot of peace compared to other West African countries and around Africa. There's good political stability in Ghana. This gives you assurance of your business so that you don't have issues with civil war and all other things like that. The government of Ghana is also very accommodative when it comes to supporting businesses like that. So Ghana is a very good place for you to do your business. Now, when it comes to the regulatory space, obviously the Food and Drugs Authority in Ghana is the main body that regulates food. Once you want to produce food, import food, and also distribute and sell food in Ghana, you need to register with the Food and Drugs Authority. There may be other agencies that regulate some aspects of this space. So, for example, the Ghana Standards Authority will come in when you have machinery and other equipment that you need to certify there so that you are having a good production process. So a typical example is for companies that use fridges. Once you set up your company, you definitely have to contact the Ghana Standards Authority to have your fridges calibrated. FDA will also make sure that you have that done so that you have good standards of or good quality machinery that you're working with in your facilities. GSA also helps to regulate this space in terms of local producers that have local producers that do not have their analysis prepared. You can definitely go to the Ghana Standards Authority, take your food samples to them, and then they can give you a good analysis on your product, which you need to present to the Food and Drugs Authority. For imported products also, if you don't have the certificate of analysis from your home country, it's also important that you go to the GSA to have the food products analyzed and you present the results to the Food and Drugs Authority. Other agencies that may come in may include Environmental Protection Agency. So if you have your factory status established in Ghana, you need to register with the Environmental Protection Agency so that you are complying with environmental standards, healthy processes of producing your food. And there's also the Municipal Assembly that comes in. You need to have your food handlers tested for health certificates. Other agencies may include GIPC, which regulates foreign investors. So if you're a foreigner, you come into Ghana and you want to do business, you need to register with the GIPC. There's also the fire department where you need to also register your establishment with them. Yes, so but mainly the agency that you're looking at to register your food products is the Food and Drugs Authority. Now, when it comes to the processes involved in registering a food product, typically the first thing you should be looking at is having a business registration certificate. So you have to also go to the ORC, that is the Office of the Registrar of Companies in Ghana. Any business that wants to be established in Ghana and do business, you have to get your business certificates, your business registered. And based on that, you can have your products registered. Do all your background checks, be sure of the food products that you are registering, the class under which it falls. Then it helps you to know what other documents that you need to present. So once you have that, you have your food handlers registered, know exactly what the product entails. So there's a lot of information on the products that you need. What are the ingredients in the products? What is the weight of your products? If you have certain health claims on your products, you need to also state those health claims on it and show evidence or proof of these things. You also need to prepare your certificate of analysis, like I mentioned earlier on. Is your product safe for consumption in Ghana? You can have the Ghana Standards Authority prepare that for you. For imported products, the manufacturer would have to give you that analysis report, which is called a certificate of analysis. For imported products also, again, we need a certificate of resale from the manufacturer. So if you are an importer or distributor in Ghana, one of the things that you need to get is the manufacturer giving you that certificate of resale. That's way you are able to sell your products freely in the country. Once you have all these documents prepared, the next thing that you have to do is to get on the FDA portal. So the FDA portal where you can apply for your product registration is called a GFENS. The GFENS is G-FIRMS. So on that portal, you can have your company registered there. You input all your product details, your ingredients, the product's name, the product size, how to use the products. They will ask you all this information there. where is the product manufactured in? Who is the manufacturer of the product? All these are some of the information that you need to put in on the portal to have the product registered. You also write an application letter, which you also upload on the GFENS portal. You upload your certificates of analysis, all other documentation that you need. Yes, obviously, your business registration certificate will be uploaded on the portal. Once that is done and you have all the information set, the system generates an invoice for you. Then once you have the invoice, you walk to the FDA office where you can make payments. This process also involves you carrying your product samples along so that you can make the payments and also present the samples to the Food and Drug Authority. Normally, the product samples will depend on the size of your products, but typically you are carrying 6 to 8 samples of your products to the Food and Drug Authority, and then that is accepted. You can register your products with that. In the cases where FDA will need more samples of the product than I have mentioned, they will typically write to you and let you know that you need extra samples of this product because of the nature of the products, and then you can present that to them. Yes, so once you have those things, you can present your products to the FDA and you have them registered. The fees for product registration with the FDA depends on the size of your business. So it is categorized into different categories. So we have the small scale, medium scale, and then a large scale. So in Ghana, small scale, in between small scale and then the large scale products, we are paying between 200 cedis and 500 cedis per annum. And this product registration is done in 3 years. So depending on the price, you pay times 3 of the amount, and the product is registered within that period of time. When the time passes, you have to do your renewals. I'm sure we'll get into that later in the presentation. So basically, this is what happens in Ghana when you want to register a product with the Food and Drug Authority. Yes, I've also mentioned some of the key documents that you need already: your business registration certificates, your FDA, your product analysis, the manufacturer's license, and then those other documents that I mentioned earlier on. With this, you can have the products registered in Ghana. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you, Edmond, for the summary on the processes of getting the products registered in Ghana. We are now going to receive Joy to give us an overview of the product registration process in Nigeria. Joy, we are ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Please confirm that you can hear me. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be one of your speakers for today's webinar. Thank you, Jane, for the introduction. So with regards to the food market in Nigeria and food regulatory or registration process in Nigeria, Nigeria has or is one of the largest food markets in West Africa, and the demand is structurally strong, and it's also growing at a very fast pace. Now, it's also important to note that certain foods are not allowed inside to be imported to Nigeria. They have to be manufactured. For instance, noodles, spaghetti, foods like that, and certain alcoholic beverages, and also certain kinds of baby foods are also not allowed for importation. So they have to be manufactured here in Nigeria. So if you're an investor looking to invest in the Nigerian food market, so there are 2 pathways to do that. You can either set up your shop or register a company directly in Nigeria, or you can appoint a local representative who will hold the marketing authorization of your product in Nigeria. So if you're setting up your company, then the regulatory bodies that you will need to come in contact with will include the Corporate Affairs Commission, which is the body that regulates and registers companies in Nigeria. Then you also need to register with the Nigerian Revenue Service. and certain other, then you will need a business permit, of course, from the Ministry of Interior. And there are a few other regulatory bodies, but that's if you're setting up your company directly in Nigeria. But assuming you only just want to market your products, you don't want to come to Nigeria to set up a company, then the major regulatory body for registering your food product. So even if you're registering the company in Nigeria, then you will still need to register the product via the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, that is NAFDAC. So NAFDAC is the body, the major or the main body that regulates and registers food products, whether imported or manufactured in Nigeria. Well, with regards to the standards organization, standards basically administers the Nigerian industrial standards. And so if you take maybe a typical drink bottle that's already been produced and sold in the Nigerian market, and you find a certification mark, that is the mandatory conformity assessment program, that's the MANCAP. So that basically certifies your facility procedures, your manufacturing facility, whether it's up to standard, and your processes, whether it's up to the quality or based on the Nigerian industrial standards. But with regards to the food product registration itself, NAFDAC is the major body or the main regulatory body that registers food products in Nigeria. And the documents that you will need, assuming that you're just registering, you're not setting up a company, you're just going to register the food products. You will need, first of all, so of course you will need a local representative. So that local representative will have to include their certificate of incorporation with the CAC here in Nigeria as part of the documents. Then you'll also be needing your evidence of trademark registration. So it could either be the applicant's trademark, depending on your agreement or whatever contractual agreement you have with the local representative. So you need an evidence of trademark registration. So notice that I said evidence of trademark registration and not the trademark certificate itself, because with NAFDAC, your trademark acceptance is sufficient to start your food product registration process. So you will need that, and then you will also be needing your notarized declaration. So NAFDAC already has a template for the declaration. It just needs to be notarized here in Nigeria. And then you'll also be needing, just like in Ghana, you'll be needing your certificate of manufacture and free sale. So your certificate of manufacture and free sale should come from your home country. And also it's important to note that any document that's coming into the country from your country has to be notarized. So that has to be notarized to show that it's authentic. So your certificate of manufacture or free sale shows that you're licensed to produce that product and that, in fact, your product complies with local laws in your home country. Then you'll also be needing your certificate of analysis. Again, just like in Ghana, that's a slight difference from Ghana, because over here in Nigeria, it's expected that you would have conducted a laboratory analysis of the product. So that's what your certificate of analysis will show. And that's part of the documents that you upload during the registration process. So it's not expected that you come here and then you do your certificate of analysis. Get your certificate of analysis. It has to originate or come from your country. Although NAFDAC still does a laboratory analysis during the registration process. But as part of the documentation, you will need a certificate of analysis. Then you also need, where it applies, you need a contract manufacturing agreement, assuming that you just have a brand name, you're registering the products in your brand name, but you're not the actual manufacturer, then you will need a contract manufacturing agreement. And also for your local representative or the person who's putting the application to NAFDAC on your behalf, we will also need your power of attorney stating the extent of the powers that you're giving them to market your products in Nigeria. So that's it for the documents. Then the process basically begins online, although there are certain aspects that you will need to visit the NAFDAC and follow up physically, but the process begins online. So after gathering your documents and your you're sure that you're ready to register your product, then an account will be created for you on the NAFDAC product registration portal. And once the account is created, you gather your documents and fill the application form. So on the application form, details like the product type, the sizes, the product name, put the manufacturer's their address, the applicant's details as well will be included in the application form, which will be paid for. So once you've submitted the application and you're paid for it, then an import permit, the document will be vetted. So if the documents are compliant, if there are no errors, if it's accurate and in the correct format, an import permit will be issued for you to import your samples. Also, the quantity of your samples depends on the packaging sizes of the products. So once you've gotten your import permit, you can go ahead to apply also for your inspection. So after your import permit is issued, the next stage will be the inspection. So in Nigeria, NAFDAC has to send their agents over to the manufacturing facilities abroad, where the inspection will be conducted. And if it is satisfactory, then the laboratory analysis will be conducted for your products. I also forgot to mention that you need your labels as part of the documentation. So that's one of the documents that you will need. Then once your inspection comes out, the inspection report comes out as satisfactory. Mind you, you also need to ensure that your facility complies with NAFDAC's good manufacturing practice requirements. So if your inspection comes out as satisfactory, then your samples will be analyzed during the laboratory analysis. If that also comes out as satisfactory, then your product will be scheduled for an approval meeting, which is an internal procedure where NAFDAC decides whether a product meets the requirements for approval. And if your product meets the requirements, it will be approved. Otherwise, a compliance directive will be issued for you to comply with. So that's pretty much the process for food product registration with NAFDAC in Nigeria. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joy. That was very informative. So we are going to move into the next section of today's webinar, and this is going to focus in a form of a conversation or a discussion. If we all paid attention to the two presentations, we can make out that there are some common there are some commodities, let me put it that way, in terms of the processes that each of these countries go through in product registration. In as much as there are some similarities, there are also some differences because they are all operating under different regulatory bodies or different regulatory frameworks. So there are certain terms that might not be the same in Ghana, but then it might demand the same documentation. So we want to look at a few questions that are bothering people. Sometimes we get people sending us questions about some of these things. And so in this section, we are going to look at three main areas. The first, we are going to focus on product registration requirements, and then we'll look at labeling compliance. Then we will move into distributor importation and market entry. Please, we want you to pay attention to these. Even though we are going to be as concise as possible in terms of our questions and then the answers, it's very important. And so we want you to pay particular attention to them and keep them. Thank you very much. And so we'll have our two panel here. And then I'm going to throw the questions to them for them to tell us how it applies in Ghana or in Nigeria. Now, when it comes to product registration and requirement, how long does a typical product registration take? Let's come to Ghana. I've observed at least I have the opportunity to observe a product registration in Ghana and a product registration in Nigeria. And sometimes you get people coming to you that I put in an application for this and I got it within 2 weeks. I got it within 3 months. But then why is this one delaying? Can you please tell us how long a typical registration takes in Ghana, Edmond?
So typically in Ghana, the registration process should take between 3 to 6 months. So within 3 to 6 months, you should have your product registration done. But you may have some cases where FDA has some issues, or it is a first come, first serve basis. So if there are other or a lot of other applications in the system already, then it may slow down a bit. But typically 3 to 6 months, it should be done. You can also opt for express services, where you pay 3 times the actual amount that you would have paid for one product. So, for example, foreigners will pay 250 products for imported products, 250 CDs for imported products. So that is for 3 years times 3. But in the case where you want expedited process, then you pay 3 times of that amount, and then you can have your products registered possibly within 6 weeks. Yes. But the expedited process doesn't involve, it doesn't include certain high risk products. So like infant baby foods or foods that are to be administered to babies and canned foods. Yes. So when it comes to those products, you can't do expedited process with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Joy, can you tell us about Nigeria?
Okay, so food product registration typically takes 6 to 7 months, and that depends on a few factors such as the turnaround or response time when an application is put. That's from NAFDAC. So NAFDAC has their own internal procedures, and with government agencies, there's only so much that we can do. There's even a fast track procedure, but that will also still depend on how quickly the documents are vetted. And of course, for imported food, NAFDAC will have to schedule a time to travel out of the country to inspect the facility abroad. So that also impacts the duration. Then also, as the applicant, how quickly you respond to any compliance directive from NAFDAC will also impact the time duration for the product registration. Then also how even frequently there are compliance directives. So if your documents are intact, if they are accurate, then there'll be fewer compliance directives, of course. And so that can also impact how long the product registration will take. There's a fast track procedure which you have to pay for twice the amount of the actual registration cost. But if there are delays from maybe how fast you respond to any compliance directive, that can also slow down the process. So within 6 to 7 months.
Okay, thank you very much. That means that in both countries, we have the fast track service. But then, even though there's the fast track service, somebody can still pay for a fast track and gets delayed or queried or rejected. Are there any common reasons in any of these situations that can cause the delays? Just outline some few of these issues for us. Joy, I want you to continue. Outline some few reasons that may cause delays in meeting up with these timelines you have provided.
Yes, so like I already stated, so if your documents are not in the accurate format, that can occasion a delay. And also, if your products do not pass the laboratory analysis test or your facility inspection comes out as unsatisfactory, there will be compliance directives issued at those stages. So you have to comply first. Or if your labels, there are claims on your labels that are not allowed, or if your labels are itself not compliant. So you have to comply with those directives, and that can also impact on the length or duration of the registration process.
Okay, thank you very much. Edmond, in Ghana, have you encountered any situation with any product registration that has delayed, and what were the reasons?
Yes, typically it's similar to what Joy has said. Additionally, you mentioned some documents that you need to upload on the portal, at the beginning stages of the registration. So if you miss any of those documents, definitely your products will delay. Your product registration will delay because FDA will write back to you. You have to present it back. Now, when you do inspection at your storage facility or your manufacturing facility, and then they find some inconsistency when it comes to production process and hygiene, definitely your product is going to be delayed. Yes. So this together with what Joy has mentioned, it causes a lot of delays.
Okay, thank you very much. So it means that it all boils down to a matter of your documentation. And if everything is okay, you are good to go. Thank you for that. Now, the next is about facility inspection. Sometimes when you look at the quotes from some of these countries, you realize that they are very high. The fee for facility inspection is very high. Is it very necessary that the facility inspection is conducted? Joy will take this first.
Okay, so yes, during food product registration in Nigeria, facility inspection is mandatory for every kind of food product. It cannot be waived, but then there are instances where the facility inspection will be postponed and your product can actually get approval without a facility inspection, although your your facility will still be inspected at a later time, but you can get an approval, actual certificate. Your products can actually get registered without the facility inspection. And that's based on what NAFDAC calls a risk categorization. So there are certain jurisdictions that NAFDAC has classified as low and then as high risk. So for the high risk, it's expected that there will be a facility inspection. So you should expect that NAFDAC will travel over to your country or to where the manufacturing site is and conduct that inspection. So, but then there are low risk environments that have the presence of WHO institutions, for instance. So jurisdictions like, say, China, there is always going to be, or there've always been inspection before approval. So based on NAFDAC risk categorization, and also you have to apply for it. So at the stage of your inspection, rather than an inspection, if you think that your facility qualifies for, that postponing of your inspection, then you will have to be required to apply for a postponement of your facility inspection pending, before your approval. So once you apply, NAFDAC will respond as to whether you qualify. And if you qualify, then your product registration will move to the next stage. So you'll be allowed to move to the next stage without a facility inspection. So that's all based on, and it's still also based on NAFDAC's prerogative at the end of the day. So facility inspection is mandatory for every product. But even if your product falls under NAFDAC's low risk categorization, it still depends on NAFDAC's prerogative to determine whether your facility will be inspected or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted a quick follow-up question. So you mentioned about it, the inspection could be waived. If it could be waived, am I supposed to still pay for the fee if it is waived, or I wouldn't have to pay?
Yes, so it will not be entirely waived. It will only be moved forward
Okay.
after your product approval. But even then, you still have to make payments for it because at every stage, an invoice will be generated. So after you've made the payments, then you can now apply for a postponement based on the risk categorization.
Okay, thank you very much. Edmond, is there anything different when it comes to Ghana? Looking at what Joy has said to us.
Basically, it's very much similar to what Joy has said. The GMP certificate is mandatory, but then for high risk countries, like you mentioned, definitely it has to be done before your product is licensed. So, for example, products coming from China, Nigeria, certain countries, yes, FDA is very strict on doing the facility inspection. Maybe what I can add also is about the type of product. So when you look at products such as canned foods, sardine, canned baby foods and stuff like that, and foods that are going to be given to kids and pregnant women, FDA is very keen on doing an inspection before any license is given. But like, it's pretty much similar to Nigeria. If the inspection is delayed in Ghana, they'll give you a temporary certificate. So normally food products is for 3 years, but in your case, you'll be given, let's say, 1 year, like a 1 year certificate, so that you can prepare to do the inspection before you can have like a full certificate to import and sell your product in Ghana. So yes.
Okay.
And maybe what
Thank
I
you.
can add is the cost. So for countries that are outside Africa, typically you'll be paying some $10,500. But in Africa, depending on how close it is, somewhere around $8,000, $5,000. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, on the same requirement, can a foreigner or a foreign manufacturer register a product directly in another country, or they would need a local representative or a distributor to do so? Edmond, you continue from where you left off.
Okay, so businesses that are not registered in Ghana can not do business in Ghana. I'm sure it's the same for other countries also. So if you are a foreigner and you want to have your products distributed in Ghana, you need like a sort of a rep, somebody who has business registered in Ghana who can do the registration for you, or FDA will not consider your application at all. So you always need a Ghanaian, whether it's a distributor, an agent, or anybody who is available to do the product registration on your behalf. Yes.
Okay. Joy, anything different, or is it the same?
So in Nigeria, if you're not registering a company, then of course you will need a local representative that will hold the marketing authorization for the product. So yes, you need a local representative, and you cannot register the product directly unless, of course, you are registering your own company and then you apply using your company's documents for the registration of the product.
Okay, thank you very much. So you are an exporter, or you are in any other country seeking to enter into another country, this is the procedure to follow. Now, one of the issues that people actually encounter has to do with their labeling. And so we want to address a few questions when it comes to labeling requirements. I would want our two speakers to throw a little bit of light on the labeling requirement for food product registration in Ghana. So Edmond, you will tell us about what is required in terms of the label on a product.
Okay, so typically you need to have your product's name on the label. This has to be in a country, I mean, the language that is spoken in Ghana. So in Ghana, the official language you speak is English. So your product's label should be in English. You can have other translations, let's say French or Chinese aside, but people buying your products should have the English translation on it so that they know what they are buying. Also, list all the ingredients that are on the or in the product. And this way, consumers know what they are buying. You also, obviously, anybody who picks up product label, you want to know when the product was manufactured and when it will expire. So if you're not doing that for your consumers, you may be doing yourself bad as a business owner. There are other things also. You want to know who the manufacturer of the details of the manufacturer in terms of where the thing was manufactured from, where it was imported from. Yes, you want to know that also. You need to also put the distributor name on the label. All these things are very important. Now, the batch number is also important. And you know that this set of batch is what is on the market right now. So this helps regulators to know or regulate the product that's on the market. So if, so for example, recently there was an issue with a tin tomato or tomato paste company that was had some issues with their products. If there's a badge number on it, you know that this particular badge is what has all the issues on them, and then you're able to recall those particular products from the market. So basically, these are some of the things that you're looking at to have on your products label before FDA accepts to register your products for you.
Okay, that is interesting. Anything different from this, Joy?
No, so pretty much everything Edmond has shared. So of course, the name of the product generally, the key labeling requirements includes the name of the product, the batch number, expiry date, warnings and cautions. For instance, if it's a dairy product, of course, you must have allergy cautions on it. So those are just basically the general ones. And also it's important to note that all of that information must be written in English. So if it's not written in English, there must be an English translation beside it. The manufacturer's details as well should also be on the labels. And if you're manufacturing, but you're not the one packaging the products, then it should be written as manufactured by so and so manufacturer and then packaged by, the other company who's packaging. So all of that details is necessary, and also a space for NAFDAC registration number when it is eventually issued. So the specific requirements will depend on the type of products, but generally those are the key requirements.
Okay. All right. So I think your response have, however, covered part of the next question I had in mind regarding the challenges that people encounter when it comes to labeling their products or the kind of package they use and some of these claims they put on the product. But I want you to itemize a few for our people to have it in mind. What are some of those packaging or labeling or product claims that if you put on your label will create some compliance challenges for your registration process? Joy, I want you to continue from where you left off.
Okay, so like I already gave the example of dairy products, for instance, because there are people who are allergic to, dairy products. Of course, there must be allergy cautions on your product labels. Then also your health, generally health and nutritional claims. If you say, for instance, a product is low on sugar, then of course, during the laboratory analysis, it must show that your product is actually low on sugar or low on fat. So the claims will still depend on the product type, or these are just a few examples. So depending on the product type, you have to actually be cautious of what you claim that's contained in the ingredients. Then your list of ingredients should also be accurate. There should be your active ingredients should also be clearly spelled out on the product labels. So these are just a few of the claims that could cause issues or cause NAFDAC to issue a compliance directive.
Okay. All right. Let's hear from you, Edmond, on the same matter.
Yeah, so typically what Joy has said applies to Ghana also. A bit that I can add is your label shouldn't be deceptive. So for example, if you have an inscription that says that no sugar, and then the product is tested, and then they realize that there's sugar inside, it means that you're lying to your consumers. Yes. Some people also, like she said, they don't like dairy. So if you put milk in your product and then you state on your product label that there's no dairy in it, it means that you're misleading your consumers. Also, the packaging itself forms part of what the FDA is looking at. So, for example, there are certain producers that may use recycled plastic. This may contaminate your food. There are certain food-based plastics that you can use, which is approved by the FDA. So you need to consider that. Also, some people use can. So when it comes to metal, there's a grade of metal or can product packaging that you can use so that you don't have your food contaminated. So these are some of the things that you should consider when you're looking at your labeling and your packaging.
Okay. That means that it is very important as far as having your product is concerned, the labeling is another thing that we should consider and pay particular attention to. Joy mentioned something during her presentation about the fact that some products are actually being banned from entering into Nigeria, and so you cannot even go ahead to register such products. That means that even when it comes to the products that you are trying to register with either NAFDAC or FDA, some of them might be probably have attract heightened regulatory scrutiny. Is there any issue like that, that some products go through, regulatory scrutiny before approval, or apart from when the ones that you know they are clearly banned, you can register any product with minimal issues? Joy, for Nigeria, is there anything like that?
Yeah, so there are products that are prohibited. Absolutely. You're not allowed to bring them at all. Products like noodles, spaghetti, certain types of juice that are packaged in for retail sale. And then products that will, attract high scrutiny will be baby foods, for instance. So there are some that are not allowed to be imported, but then there are some that will definitely, because of the vulnerability of the consumers. So yes, so baby food will fall under that category of products.
Okay, thank you very much. Edmond, is there anything like that in Ghana?
So typically, if you have some food extracts, for example, there are lots of food supplements extracts from outside the country. If they are not from very familiar foods that Ghanaians know, FDA will pay typical attention to it, because then it means that there will not be enough research that has already been made on such products. So FDA is keen on those things. Also, yes, foods that are going to be given to vulnerable people, pregnant women, babies, they pay very much attention to that. Genetically modified foods, yes, FDA will pay strict attention to those things. So these are some of the things that FDA is keen on.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that everyone here has gotten to learn a bit about the importance of getting your labeling right. That means that even when your label is wrong, your process could equally be delayed. Right. Now, we mentioned about the fact that a company residing outside any of these countries cannot directly register a product in the country. So in terms of choosing these local distributors, we want to find out from the two countries what are the key considerations that an exporter seeking to do business in any of these countries should look out for when choosing a local distributor. Edmond, you can continue for us.
Okay, so typically, whoever you choose to register products in Ghana for you will have to go to the FDA through the process. So basically, you need somebody who has the experience, somebody who is ready to go through the process for you. Then it doesn't delay, because most of the information that they provide to the FDA in the process that they go through influences how long or even if you get your products approved. So for somebody who wants to import products, look for somebody who has experience and is ready to do the registration process for you. Also, it comes down to building your business. So I'm going to choose a producer who has a lot of market visibility, or they have a lot of coverage when it comes to the Ghanaian market. So if there's a distributor who can reach a lot of regions in Ghana, I'd rather go for that distributor. And importing the products and paying for them too comes with some level of financial stability. So is your distributor or your agent ready to pay for the products and all that? It still depends on the kind of contract you have with them. But I think financial stability is also part of the things that you should consider as in choosing your agent or your local distributor. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Joy, would you throw a little bit of light on that for us for Nigeria?
Okay, so when choosing a distributor for your food products, you want to look at generally a distributor that's compliant with local regulations or local laws. So they must have registered their business and with the tax authorities as well. Then also you also want to look at a distributor that has experience, just like Edmund has already shared. You want to look at a distributor or an importer that has some sort of expertise in maybe that particular product, or just generally importing products into the country, and also their reach or visibility. So if you're looking at distributing to maybe only Lagos, or you're looking at distributing to the whole of Nigeria, you don't want a distributor that's just limited to maybe one particular state in Nigeria. So you want to look at a distributor that's compliant with local laws, and also that has expertise and years of experience in food importing and distribution.
Okay, thank you very much. And in such a situation, who should ideally own the product registration certificate if I'm a foreign company and I'm doing so through a local distributor? Edmund.
Okay, so in Ghana, once you have your imported product license, you have the manufacturer's name on the license. And then you have the local persons who helps register the products on the license. FDA recognizes the Ghanaian entity more because as a foreigner, if you don't have your business registered in Ghana, you can't do business in Ghana. It means that whoever registered the product here in Ghana for you is like the key person who is controlling the product registration or the product license itself. Yes, so it is important to pay attention to who you are giving the work to register your products for you.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we are almost about finishing this section, I want to remind our participants to drop their questions in the chat box, and we will attend to each and every one of them after this section. Thank you very much. Okay, and then also I would want to also find out what happens if a product arrives without the required approval? Hello?
Yes,
so
you can hear you, sir.
Okay, yes. So Joy, if a product happens to arrive without the required approval, what happens to it? What would NAFDAC say? What would NAFDAC do? Or what should the importer do, I mean, in this situation?
Okay, so if your product, whether it's in transit at sea already, or it has arrived to the port, of course, everything that comes into Nigeria will get to the port first. So once it gets to the port and you don't have a license, there's no registration, proof of registration with NAFDAC, your goods will be seized first. And NAFDAC will conduct a laboratory analysis of those products to see whether they fall within approved requirements or standards. So if they do not meet that requirement, then your goods will be confiscated there at the port, and you will also be required to pay a fine for them confiscating those goods at the port. But if your goods meet the requirements, then you'll be asked to start the registration process. And until you get your import permit, and which only allows you to import samples still. So you only be able to import your samples regardless. So your goods will be seized first, and if it's going to be confiscated, it will be confiscated. And then if it meets the NAFDAC's requirements, then you'll be asked to go through the registration process proper. And until you get your import permits, you cannot bring in those goods into Nigeria for sale.
All right, thank you very much for that information. Now, our last question, and then we would now move into the question and answer section from our chat box. So if you are here and you have not dropped your question yet, please quickly do so, because when we attend to what we have already, we might not have the chance to address yours here. You may probably have to contact us later so that we address your issues for you. Now, will NAFDAC or FDA insist on a GMP certificate if another distributor decides to import products from the same manufacturer that has the GMP certificate already. So we have mentioned the fact that the GMP certificate is a necessary requirement. Now, one company has already imported and is having that GMPC certificate from one manufacturer. I want to import from that same manufacturer. Would I have to get another GMP certificate because I am a different company? Joy.
Yeah, so that depends on whether the GMP certificate is still valid. So with NAFDAC, your GMP certificate is only valid for 3 years. So if the manufacturer has a GMP certificate from NAFDAC and it's still valid, then you will still be required to pay for that facility inspection for your own products. You'll be required to pay for that facility inspection. Of course, if the GMP certificate is no longer valid, you'll be required to pay for it. But then if the manufacturer already has a GMP certificate, your product can scale through the registration process. So the facility inspection will not be conducted, even though you will pay for it. So it will not be conducted. Your product will still be approved for registration. But then the facility inspection will be conducted at a later date after the product has been approved.
All right. Thank you very much. So Edmond, I would want you to put those two questions together and then address it quickly for us. One is has to do with when a product enters into the country and then we have not registered a product and it already enters into the country, and as to whether GMP certificate you need it is insistent if another company already has the GMP certificate. Thank you, Edmond.
Yes, so when your product comes into the country and is not registered, typically it's just cost for the business because your product is going to be confiscated. It means that you'll be paying more, what do you call it, demurrages, right? At the port. You pay more storage time at the port. So normally we advise clients that start the registration process, get your license before the product even land in the country. So you can import very less quantities for a sample presentation to FDA. Now, your products can be seized, like I mentioned earlier on, or even destroyed. So it's good that have your products registered before it comes into the country. For GMP license, the license is issued to the so if you want to have multiple distributors, they don't have to get a new license for GMP unless it's expired, like Joy mentioned. In Ghana, it goes up to like 5 years. So if your license is not expired, the GMP license is not expired, different distributors can use it. It's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, our two speakers, for this wonderful presentation. I believe that it's been very informative and has added value to the knowledge of our people on this webinar. And also, FEMOS is always readily available to assist you if you need help in doing any of this. Now we want to quickly move into our Q&A, check our chat box to see if we have more questions from there so we can address them. Okay, so I have one question for Nigeria. We talked about the fact that there's this fast track service. So the question is, how long does the express registration in Nigeria last? How long does it take? Joy, you would have to take that.
Okay, so the registration itself of a food product typically takes 6 to 7 months, and which is twice the amount of a standard product registration cost. So that there's no, it may take 5 months, it may take 4 months, it may even take longer than the normal product registration timeline, because all of that, the timeline, the duration really depends on the internal procedures from NAFDAC itself, how fast they quickly vet your documents, and of course, because it's imported product, how fast an inspection of the manufacturing facility abroad is scheduled. So there is that factor, the agency factor, and then there's also the fact where of you responding quick to any compliance directive that's issued by NAFDAC. So there is really no precise amount of time for the fast track procedure. So many importers or many manufacturers or product owners just pay for the actual, because it could cost you way more, and then at the end of the day you might end up spending even a longer time than if you had not even paid for the fast track procedure. So that's what I'll say to that question.
Okay, so even though like there's the fast track service, equally, if your documentations are not correct, there's likely to be some delays. So it's better to put your documents in check and properly presented so that you can have a smooth registration process. Right. Okay. Okay, so I've also observed one thing. In terms of registering the product, the question is, do you have to present physically submitted document, or you can do the application online? In terms of Nigeria, how is it done? Joy.
So the application will start online, but then there are also some aspects that require you to visit the agency and follow up. Of course, it starts online, starts with you filling the application form online after you've created an account on NAFDAC portal. And then once you've submitted your documents, the NAFDAC will vet it. You also be required to submit those documents, including the application form that you filled, and attach all the necessary documents and submit at the NAFDAC office nearest to you. So the application starts online. There are some aspects that you will need to do physically. So it's both ways.
Okay. Edmond, how is it like in Ghana?
So up until last year, FDA was doing applications manually. So you take your products, you take your documents to FDA, sometimes on a pen drive, but now everything is on GFEMS. So I mentioned earlier on, GFEMS is the portal on the FDA website where you can register your company itself, complete all your applications online, upload all the relevant documents online. So you don't have to carry any of the documents to FDA. And like Joy rightly also said, in Ghana, you have to go to the FDA to make the payments after your registration online has been approved and you've been issued an invoice. Then when you're going to do your payments, you also take your product samples. So pretty much everything is online except the payments and then the submission of your product samples. Yes.
Okay, that is great. It means that both countries have gone, how do you call it? Technology has taken over. Almost all countries are going technological. So that's interesting to know. Then a question on dietary supplement. So are dietary supplements classified as food products, either in Ghana or in Nigeria? Edmond.
Okay,
If I'm into dietary supplement, will I consider that as a food product that has to be registered, or is it medicine?
Okay, so in Ghana, you have different departments that handle food products and medicine. So if it's dietary supplements, if it's a supplement, it goes under medicine. So the food department doesn't actually regulate that space. So it's still the FDA, but it goes to the drug section. So medicine or drug section, yes.
Okay. Joy, what of Nigeria?
Yeah, so it's the same procedure here in Nigeria. If you want to register a food supplement, the Drugs Registration and Regulatory Affairs Directorate will handle that registration because they are classified as drug products rather than food products.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, in terms of local representatives or the distributors, if I'm actually using one local representative, can I change them if I don't want to work with them anymore? Joy, throw more light on that for us.
Yes, so you can always choose.
I think that Joy is muted.
Joy, you are muted.
Okay. So yes, you can change your local representatives. You would have issued a power of attorney to the first local representative. So if you want to change your local representative, you have to revoke that power of attorney and then issue a new power of attorney to the new local representative. So yes, you can always change your local representative.
Okay. Edmond?
Yes, so in Ghana, like I mentioned earlier on, the FDA recognizes the local entity more because the foreign one wouldn't have business registered in Ghana. So you see the local entity that registered the products as like the legal owner of the business. Now, what happens is that you can do another product registration with another distributor or another agent. That way, you are giving all the documentations to the new person to be able to do the renewal of the product. So if you want to go away with the old agent or the old distributor, it means that you are not providing them with the new documentation they need to do the renewal as a manufacturer. Because the renewal process also goes through the same process. You need all those documents you have mentioned earlier on, which sometimes the manufacturer would have to present to you. So if you don't want to work with the old person again, just give the new renewal documents to the new agent, and then they can have that's registered for you.
Okay, I just got a prompt that some of you can't use your the chat box. So we are giving a quick opportunity. If you have any question, you can raise your hand quickly, and then you can unmute and ask your question. When I see your hand up, I would call you to answer. So I think one person has already raised the hand. Can we have a question from Dawn quickly? Let's interact. Okay, so before Dawn comes up, there's a follow-up question for Nigeria product registration. How long does it take to renew a product? So Joy, take that, and after Dawn can answer, ask her question. Thank you.
Please, what's the question? I didn't get the question.
Okay, the question is, how long does it take to renew a product registration after a successful registration? So you have registered a product already. How long does it take for you to do a renewal?
Yes, so because you've done a lot of the process at the initial registration, it will take, say you put your application today, so within 3-4 months, but that will also depend on whether you need to renew your good manufacturing practice certificate. So like I mentioned, that's valid for 3 years. So if you need to renew it, that will also determine how long the renewal is going to take for the product registration, because NAFDAC will need to conduct another facility inspection and to update your GMP certificates. So typically, if you don't need to do that, then let's say 3 to 4 months. But if you need to do that, then that will take a longer time.
Then please, you are muted.
So sorry about that. Okay, so that's good to hear. I hope our participant has taken note of the response. Right. So I think the people cannot unmute also to ask the question as we initially wanted it to be. So I will just look at the few questions we have and then we can wrap up. If you have any further questions, you are free to visit us, send us an email. We'll share our email with you after the webinar. You can send us an email anytime and we'll be glad to answer your questions. Okay, so there's a question on global listing. There's a question on global listing, and that is for Ghana. So Edmond, this is for you. We want to know if what the process is and whether it applies in Ghana. So global listing of a product. Eddie, you are breaking up.
To distribute. I'm sorry, is it better?
Yes.
Okay. So I said earlier on that the question is not very clear, but basically any product that you want to distribute in Ghana or sell in Ghana, and then it has to come from another foreign country, whatever it is, wherever it's coming from, it still has to be registered with the FDA. So I don't understand clearly what the question is seeking to ask, but if it is about maybe some products that may not have to be registered in Ghana, there's nothing like that. All the products that come into the country should be registered with the FDA before you can sell or distribute in the country.
Okay, so I think we can reach out to the person after this webinar if the answer is okay or she needs further clarification, and then we can address that for her.
Sure.
Okay, so the other question has to do with fruit juice importation into Nigeria. Is it still banned, or we can now import some fruit juice? Joy.
Please, can you take the question one more time?
Okay, so the question is about fruit juice imports to Nigeria. Is it still banned? Can people import fruit juice into Nigeria, or is banned?
Okay, so the fruit juice that are banned are basically the ones that are in retail sizes. So that's just the only fruit juice that is banned. So if you look at the import prohibition list on the Nigerian Customs website, you will find the full list of food products that are banned from import into Nigeria. But for fruit juices specifically, the ones that are packed in retail sizes, they are banned from importation into Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much. In summary, I think we have learned a lot today. I have gotten to understand a bit more of the processes that we have to go through when we have to register a product, whether in Nigeria or in Ghana. And then also we have realized that there are some similarities in these two regulatory frameworks in terms of the processes, the labeling requirement, and even in choosing a local distributor. There are some similarities and there are also some differences. And so if we are intending to do business in any of these countries, we should pay particular attention to those things that applies to a particular country and not the other. And like Edmond mentioned, it doesn't matter the kind of products you are importing into a particular company, a particular country. It must meet the requirements of that country. And for that matter, it has to go through the regulatory agency in charge before you can do so. And doing so, importing a product without getting a registration, you are actually putting your own money and your own business at a disadvantage. So let's always try to do the right thing at the right time. And by ending this webinar, I want to introduce Famous once again to you. Famous is a business consulting firm based in Ghana. We have branches in Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and we also do business across other West African countries like Benin, Senegal, Guinea, Cameroon, and also Kenya. So if you are looking for any one-stop shop in doing business across any of these countries that I have mentioned, FEMOS is actually the go-to for you. We provide services in market research, trade development, business regulatory compliances, and it is a 360 service. So from business registration to every requirement or permit that you need in terms of the regulatory agencies that applies to your sector of operation, FEMOS is ready to support you to obtain all those licenses to smoothly run your business. We provide tax and accounting services. We have a legal department that provide legal services, and then we provide HR services as well. So if I say it is your one-stop shop for doing business, then I mean it this way. So look out for us on our website and always reach out to us if you need our support. We provide value, we deliver value. And if we are doing or working with you in these processes, it is seamless. You don't need to stress out. You don't need to go through any hassle. We will do everything and present your certificate to you at your doorstep. So thank you for taking time to join us for this webinar. We believe you have been informed and you have taken a bit more from this webinar. We are hoping to keep you in mind and also to remind you of our subsequent webinars within the year. Feel free to join us and reach out to us anytime. Thank you and God bless you all. Thank you to our speakers also for the wonderful presentation. We appreciate your time and also for being available to educate the public. Thank you and have a wonderful day.